Anthony Hopkins, really?
Oh, I thought, you know what? I thought you said Vincent D'Onofrio. Isn't that the same
Oh,
guy?
and even worse,
Anthony Hopkins
one is
and
Silence of the Lambs, and the other was the SVU derivative.
yeah, the or he was Gomer Pyle in Full Metal Jacket, if you recall. The
Also
um,
true.
we always used to joke that me and my ex girlfriend, right? We used to joke that there were certain actors that were
Hmm.
interchangeable, and we would do stuff
Hmm.
like we would try to find ones that were, and when we thought of one, if we mistook somebody, we would say, "Oh, that's another one. That's one that you can and you would think about it. You'd be like, "Yeah, I guess I could see so and so in this movie and him in this movie or whatever." And now I'm thinking to myself, could I see Vincent? Would I be like, um, would I have a difficult time imagining Vincent D'Onofrio in Thor, right, as Odin? No, not really. I mean, we saw.
Oh, I see.
Well, I didn't see it. I saw him in the commercial. Um, what's his face? Russell Crowe was Zeus
Hmm.
in the new
Zeus.
Thor.
Yeah,
So,
that was
um,
awful.
you kind of
Yeah,
see all these
I wanted to kill myself like just watching it.
well, you probably did it soothe your butt hurt whenever you were able to see Chris Hemsworth's butt hurt immediately after that part.
No, dude, that made it even worse, to be honest. Because now I'm just really uncomfortable, you know? At that point, it's like, all right, so they turned Natalie Portman's boyish figure into a man's figure
Oh yeah,
by
man, it's pretty good.
CGIing her arms, right? Then there's Valkyrie, who I know is literally nepotism hire. I mean, some people might argue diversity hire, but it's literally a nepotism hire because she was fucking the director, and everybody knows that.
Takandi
And
Wandandi.
then, yes, Takaya Watiki torches
Yeah, nobody
and stuff.
remembers his name.
No, actually, I have to admit, I give him a little bit more credit because I really like the show What We Do in the Shadows, and he created that. But and I liked the Hitler documentary, Jojo Rabbit or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah. He did do that one too,
That
and
was
he also yeah, there was
dude.
some.
That was like intensely. That was intensely cute, like in a Wes Anderson style kind of way, and so I really enjoyed that. But yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder was the worst thing. It, for example, did you watch the one before it, Ragnarok?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Did you like it or no? I mean, just
You
short.
know,
I don't need you to.
uh, yeah, I would say so. I like nearly all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe prior to. I'm sorry, up until Endgame. Like once Endgame happened,
Okay.
I'm out.
Yep.
I haven't watched anything since.
Right.
So, and I enjoyed a lot of that stuff.
Really.
They really
Okay.
all of it. I don't really have any. I
Hmm.
mean, nothing substantial that I'm going to complain about. But yeah, I thought it was
Captain
all
Marvel.
pretty well done. Well, that was after Endgame, if you were, wasn't it? Oh no, no, that's the one that I didn't watch
Nope.
then. Okay,
They
yeah, I didn't
snuck it
watch that one.
in so that way they
Yeah,
could
so
put
that
her in
people can't
Endgame.
say that.
If you-
Yeah, so people can't be talking about how
That's right.
shitty or how they liked everything up until Endgame. See, I just fucked myself by
That's
admitting that
right.
I liked
Exactly.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, yeah. Let alone any. I mean, I could go on quite substantially about Black Panther and how bad it is,
Yeah, I
but
didn't care much for that
but
one either. But my middle son likes it, so I wear my Black Panther shirt in solidarity.
okay. Well, I mean that is what it is. I wore my dashiki to the theater, which thank goodness I did because there were actually people doing that. I was like, yo, this is a Marvel movie. What are you doing? This is owned by Disney. You understand that, right? Anyway, um, so look, here was my major problem with Ragnarok, right? It's Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the
Like
end, right?
it, it's supposed to be the end. It's supposed well, forget even the actual definition of the end because you could say, well, it was the end of that planet of, you know,
Sure.
uh,
Spoiler alert if you're gonna
Thor.
cut if you're gonna
That
say
yeah, sorry, it's for the 10-year-old movie or whatever it is.
that.
Um, Thor. So yeah, you know, Asgard blows. Okay, fine, the end or whatever, right? But it actually means like a really hardcore thing is about to like serious. This is a
Hmm.
serious fucking situation, right?
Sure.
So why then is it a like buddy cop movie uh, where
With the
like Thor's
diversity
an
nepotism
idiot?
hire. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's also that Thor is an idiot. Valkyrie's better than him, even though she's a drunk failure as a Valkyrie. Mark Ruffalo is also kind of like
Oh yeah, that's right.
stupid
He's
when
a
he's
part.
not the Hulk, which is weird. And then Jeff Goldblum is literally just
Jeff
Uncle
Goldblum.
Creepy,
Yeah.
touchy. You're right. Yeah, he's Jeff Goldblum. So do you get what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
like they took the one thing that should be like, look, dude. Oh, if I said to you, hey man, Thor Ragnarok, he's gonna fight this uh, huge demon. He's gonna have to fight his sister Hela, who, you know, can take over Ragnarok and make it into hell on, excuse me, Asgard and make it hell on Asgard or whatever it is. You've got, you know, the planet Hulk, where Hulk is kind of you know, he's like a savior, but he's also like kind of a,
A slave,
you know,
gladiator
gladiator slave thing. Yeah, like it's, so there's that. And do you understand? Like if I laid all that up, oh, Odin's gonna die, Asgard's gonna be destroyed, and then you were like, really? So what is it? Ah, it's more of a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just Takiki Wakando. You
No,
know.
but isn't that so wrong
Yeah.
though?
No, I agree.
Like
I agree with what you're
it
laying
makes
out.
no sense.
But here's the thing that you have to understand,
And it
Jerry,
only got worse in this one.
is that
Oh, I'm sorry.
people have come out to support this Love and Thunder as like, hey, no. It's not a Marvel movie, right? Marvel movies are supposed to be like action
Oh.
movies. We go to see Marvel movies for the action, right? We want to see the goofy kind of aliens and giant robots or whatever, and
Sure.
superheroes fighting them, right? The cape shit, right? That's what we go to see.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then when you have movies like,
Shiro's is what I go for.
what does Shiro stand for? Oh, because it's a girl hero.
It's a hero, but all females.
Okay, yeah. So like Golden Girls.
It's a
is what
Shiro.
you're saying. Golden Girls is a Shiro movie, or television.
It's a
show.
Shiro. Yeah, that's
the,
right.
That's the Avengers movie that I want to see, is where the Golden Girls get a hold of
Just be Arthur.
the Infinity Stones, and each one of them and then at the end you find out that they themselves were the majestic stones that were so sought after all this time, and friendship was the final stone, right? And that's how the Golden Girls
incredible.
should have ended, right? If I was
That sounds
Takiki
really cool,
Wakando,
actually.
I would have. That's what I would have done.
Mhm.
But no, they came out. They said, no, this isn't.
Will co-op.
We'll just never get it right. And I refuse to look it up because I know what he looks like, and I know kind of what his name looks like, but I don't know.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to describe him. Or I might be able to pick him out of
Yeah,
the
I
crowd,
think
maybe.
that's fine.
But they said he's, they were like, it's a comedy. It's not really, don't go there looking for action. And it's like saying, hey,
That's right.
don't go to this new Conjuring movie, or don't go to the new Exorcist movie looking for
Expecting horror.
a horror film. You should go
Right.
looking for a rom-com, right? It's like you're asking me to go to something that has a very distinct crowd, audience, people who want, it has a very distinct thing about it, and you're like, no, hold up. Thor is not an action Marvel movie. It is a comedy.
That's
right? With a girl hero. And we all know how girl hero movies turned out, because even what's-her-face, Brie Larson, they asked her if she was going to reprise her role as Captain Marvel, and she got so upset, she was like, well, does anybody want me to go be Captain Marvel again? And so, like, everybody, I think we all understand, even the actresses who portray these roles, once they're put into the spotlight, we're like, hey, you're the head person, they know that is going to be a flop compared to their male counterparts, right? So like the Star Wars sequels, I don't know really anybody. I have not ever met anybody who has said, no, the sequels were the best, right? I've never heard that. I've heard people who've said, no, the sequels were fine. I enjoyed the sequels just fine, or whatever. But I have never heard somebody say, oh, the sequels, man, they just like, they blew the old stuff, the originals, the prequels, they
out
blew
of
it
the
all
water.
out
Thank
of the
God.
water, right?
Thank goodness they decided to continue. Is
Right.
what I hear.
I'm so glad that they changed it up. They gave us a female lead with a goofy kind of like a black sidekick, right? Who we're going to totally underwrite, and we're going to make him hate Disney and anything involved with Star Wars, who will never return to this area ever again. Probably never sci-fi ever again. It's entirely because black people. It's so rare that you see. I mean, you might see like one, and they must have like picked from. I don't know. They're like, there's always a black guy, right? Prometheus, Event Horizon.
Sure.
You know, they always think of like, you know, the guy who's like
even
assholes. He says assholes and elbows in Aliens, right? And then who was the other guy in The Thing, right? But that's arguably that's a horror movie, not so much a sci-fi movie.
All you have to do is go back and look at actual Star Wars to compare it to Star Wars, because I believe, literally speaking, George Lucas was looking for like a cool guy to be cool with Han Solo.
Yeah, Lando.
And to kind of tap into another market, which is the black, like back then he's like, yeah, we don't have much for the black community watchers here. Like, you know, this is Star Wars stuff. Let me put in the Colt 45 guy, right? and don't forget, people are like, oh, come on, it's not that simple. All right, let me throw this at you. Why then did he decide to cast Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah. Samuel L. motherfucker Jackson.
Right, and get these motherfucking Jedi off my motherfucking plane.
Yeah. My Death Star.
Why would? Yeah, if I get these. So why would you cast him? And by the way, not that he couldn't have been maybe again a Billy D. Williams type role, where he was like maybe or even more like not a Mandalorian per se, but more of a Han Solo type, right?
Yeah.
He could have been something like that, but instead he made him like one of the most powerful Jedi to ever have existed, and completely cut out the attitude. But people go to see Samuel L. Jackson they don't see him for Jedi Jackson. They go to see him for Pulp Fiction Jackson.
Right.
So but so the point was, he knew. I know the story behind it. George Lucas saw Titanic come out, and it blew away all the records, and he was openly on the set bitching and complaining that they were not going to be able to beat Titanic in numbers. So it makes total sense that he would have cast Jackson to try to get that audience he doesn't normally get, in the same way as he got Billy D. Williams, in the same way as they always have like token isms or whatever. And the unfortunate part is that really the only success has been Billy D. Williams, like in terms of like long-lasting legacy and it actually working towards his personality, like him going like, Leia, how are you? Like he's still, you know what I mean? Like you might as well have been like, hey, what's up? You know.
Well, yeah, and then what do we know about Lando is that he was a traitor. Like he's always, you know, he's in it for himself at all times, and he's willing to sell his friends out under the guise of like the long game, but in reality he was just trying to save his own skin. And
he saved his own skin every time.
Yeah, so
and even then, by the way, they made him that Glover kid, and he made him gay or whatever.
Well, they made him pan because he fucks a robot. Or because he's like in love with a robot or whatever. Yeah, people said they were like, oh, they made Lando fucking pansexual. And I'm like, oh, what? And then I watched the movie and I'm like, oh, well, it's because he fucks a robot. Which I'm like, you know, to each their own. Most people I know, most women I know fuck robots, right? You know, technically. and so to me,
Batteries
that didn't seem
included.
that weird. It's just that this dildo that he walks around with has a personality. And that's the only difference, really. So I didn't buy into it. I'm like, all right, yeah, Lando, he's just like a ladies' man, and he fucks a robot that is very effeminate.
Why would a ladies' man have to fuck a robot? It's automatically a contradiction.
Well, because he doesn't want to have to deal with women, right? Like, he's a ladies' man, but he doesn't want to have to deal with women. He's programmed this robot to not be a bitch.
You know what you're doing?
Right?
It's a common problem. Do you know what you're doing?
What am I doing?
Have you ever caught yourself doing this? Do you know what you're doing?
Mm-mm.
I've done this so many times. In defense of a movie, or in simply trying to figure out what they were trying to go for, you're writing the movie. Nobody said he didn't want to deal with women. Nobody has ever said
but it was
Lando had a problem getting laid.
Right.
Because
just as
all
a
the
man,
women in
you
that movie
know,
were a bunch
right?
of...
Yeah, you've seen the women in Star Wars. They're all like headstrong and kind of like a nuisance. Like
in that
Leia.
movie in particular, you know.
Yeah, that movie. I mean, I don't really. I think Han was trying. Like he like left his. I mean, everybody was kind of ditching women, like bio women, right? Like
Yes.
Han ditched his old lady.
Yeah.
Lando was fucking a robot. I get it.
And
Like,
don't forget, Han's lady actually ended up being working for the Empire.
yeah, she was
So
a bad
that
guy.
was,
So
you know,
again, it just makes
yeah.
it makes the argument for us that women are generally bad, right? And at least in a galaxy
Uh-huh.
far, far away. Now, what you said something earlier about Titanic, kind of it's stuck in my head now. Well, first of all, let me say this about when you were talking about how they make Hulk and Thor kind of stupid and goofy. In order to kind
Right.
of like, and then like the women are the super strong, powerful ones. What is, and then also Jeff Goldblum has to
Mm-hmm.
be like kind of the effeminate gay, like, hello, I'm Jeff Goldblum. Like the
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum in real life. But the
Really
reason
creepy
for
shit.
that,
Yeah.
which is why they probably cast him there, because they needed somebody who was naturally weak and just kind of like, nobody looks at him and says, that is the epitome of man. Look at this Adonis, this Cadillac of men, Jeff Goldblum. No, we look at Jeff Goldblum and we're
Yeah,
like,
the Fly.
well, yeah, we're like, nah, I've seen Jeff Goldblum naked. He is not a man's man. But he goes,
I
you
mean, he's
look
always
at all
in
that
good
stuff.
shape. That's,
Yeah, he's
you know,
always at least not fat, right? So he's got that on me. But
Right.
he's got no muscle tone. So like I know, even though I'm fat, I could beat up Jeff Goldblum. I guarantee it. Not that I would want to, because it would like be like beating up my little sister, right? Who wants to do that? Or or like I don't know, like a grandfather, I guess at his age. But anyways, they do that.
Yeah.
They did that to those very strong characters because that was they wanted to amplify women, right? And the only way that you can make
Sure.
women shine is by taking men and handicapping
Take down the men.
them, right? And they've done this they did that there, and they've done it in other movies. And I know you mentioned one, but anyways, that's just kind of like the recurring thing that we're seeing. But they also did it in real life, if you recall. They decided to start with that whole toxic masculinity. They said, hey, chopping wood, that is toxic masculinity. Like just hunting, that is toxic masculinity.
Right.
Wearing pants, that's toxic masculinity. Wearing boots,
That's for
toxic
women folk.
growing a beard, that's toxic masculinity. So literally all the things that they said were toxic masculinity were things that I put on my list of things that I needed to know how to do or do
Right.
more often, because I knew that kind of like, and then they started like introducing soy into everything and encouraging guys to drink soy, which then they marketed the soy bottle opener, right? Which is like, it should have told you
Oh,
something about soy as a dietary supplement. But anyways, I digress. But that's how they empower women. But at the same time, these same people are the ones who say, well, there's no biological difference. Men and women are, they're exactly the same. There's no biological difference.
true.
You can be a man trapped in a woman's body, or a woman trapped in a man's body. There's no physical. So let the trannies compete. Let the male to female trannies compete in the female games, even though they always win.
Well,
right?
here, let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I need to just jump in, Tom.
Yeah,
while
please.
I've heard nothing from what you've said, while you've said it emphatically, I've heard nothing that makes any contradictions of themselves. I don't understand where your frustration coming from. It's a very linear line. I see the plane. It's very easy to understand. I like having our show. I want to be able to continue to talk. I see I don't know where Tom's confusion is. No, but the greatest part, and I always like this part of the argument as well, too, right? It's like, okay, men and women are exactly the same, right? But then,
Sure.
what are you transitioning into? Like, if we all do the same shit, like if men can have babies, if women can, I don't know, take really badass dumps after logging or something, then what is you know what I'm saying? Like, if we're the same, then what's the chance? I should just be able to look at Tom and go, what a fine what a fine lady that is.
Yeah.
Right?
And I would
Like,
appreciate that. I appreciate a compliment.
Sure. Well, it's not so much a compliment as just an acknowledgement of God's work.
A recognition of God's beautiful creation. Thank you.
That's right. Hey, listen, we just got to be honest about things. By the way, I want to make sure to answer Don real quick. Yes, it is absolutely Alcoa Fedora night. This is a gift from Don. I want to thank him again for that. This hat predates my co-hostship on this fine program, and I don't know if I brought this out on another show or not, but this is the first episode where, as long as my headphones don't die on me, it will stay the entire time.
Well, at least they can't hear. You know what? And I need to unplug my thing while we're talking. But once you were talking about the headphones and the static, the Faraday cage that you're wearing on your head, I remembered that I have Alexa plugged in. So I'm glad we didn't talk about whatever we're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, how soon are we looking? I mean, we're almost at 9:30. I don't know. I have to admit, because of our track record, I haven't really prepared too much in the way of whoopsies here. I just kind of have some of the old ones, thinking that this one not only may get us into trouble where it doesn't matter, but also that we may go for a little while, or at least the primary portion of the 2 hours. So I thought,
Yeah, for sure. We do have to end by 11. Like I said, I have to sub tomorrow. I have to be responsible or whatever. But I do have. Let me talk about this.
I got a job myself, my man.
I know, and you're a better man than I, because I can't normally stay up drinking and then I don't have anything interesting as far as new predator catchers to watch. I don't like to put my name on anything unless I think that it's actually good. So I'm waiting. I've been kind of eyeing this group. It's the Omaha Predator Prevention or something, and they're pretty good, but I want to make sure that they're good, and I didn't just catch a couple of good ones. But then we did talk about, I know earlier today, Jerry, we did finally come up with a name for our group, right? You'll be decoying, right, from a distance, and then I will. The cool thing is, are we allowed to say what state you're in? I don't know if we have before in the past.
Why not? I mean,
okay. Because it's perfect, because yours even works a little bit better than mine. Because if I either way, we're kind of like a team on different sides of the country, right? And we've got the Midwest here, and then we've got the East Coast there, and we found a way to kind of merge the name while being inclusive to kind of a parent group. It would be Creep Catchers, but spelled with K's, right? Creep Catcher. But then mine would be Kentucky Creep Catcher, right? So, and we just abbreviated, of course, to save time and space when we're creating titles and such, to KKK, right? So it'd be Kentucky Creep Catcher.
Well, I think it would make a good T-shirt,
right? Yeah, obviously. Yeah, you can put KKK on the front or the back even, or I could wear it on my, how Tommy wears his CPP. It would just say KKK on mine, right? Or even I could wear a hat, maybe white, have a point on it. I don't know. And then we also have Connecticut Creep Catchers, but also it would be spelled with K's, just to kind of
keep it. Which would also be.
Yeah, right. To keep it together, and people would recognize.
We got to keep
this is part of the KK parent group, right? Like we're kind of, and then maybe someday down the line, maybe we get someone in Colorado, maybe we get somebody
in California.
California. Or, plenty of business over there, So that's kind of the dream that we have right now. And maybe if we break it down to cities, we could even do cities like in Ohio. We'll have one in Columbus, Chicago. Yeah, we've got people. We can have everybody.
Well, Tom, here's the best part.
Except Chicago wouldn't work because it would be Chicago, right? And then it'd have to say that to the cops.
Yeah, because then you're just gonna die.
Well, yeah, I'm a parent. I'm a part of an online sting organization, and it's called Chicago Creep Catchers, all K's, and then they're like, not only is that offensive, but it's incredibly stupid, and so then of course our boy Megabit would be, he'd be out. Trying to explain himself. He'd only have one video because everyone would be blasting him on it or whatever. So, Jen said to make sure that I wear the cape with the hat, right? I have to wear the cape with my KKK pointed hat.
Obviously. I think I don't even know why. I appreciate them bringing it up, but I'm not even sure why that was even in question. You should have assumed that as a natural thing.
You know, if I'm going to wear it, because some, you know, it's obviously an optional accessory. I don't
No,
necessarily
I don't think it
brag
is. I mean,
all
was
the
the
time.
suit an
Right.
option for Iron Man? I don't think so.
Well,
You know what
yeah,
I
as
mean?
a matter of fact, it was because he would go to engagements as Tony Stark, and then he would, you know, he would change if he needed to.
But
There
then
was,
we see he would always have the see.
yeah, he didn't
But
really
your
care about
action, you know what I mean?
being caught. I do have something that I want to talk about
Mm,
before we get into this episode because it's been sitting on. I want to get it off of my. You know how
okay.
like on Android you've got like, or I'm sure on Apple too, but you've got like
Hmm.
a thing where, or you've got all your windows open, kind of like you would have tabs on a computer or whatever. Like I have just like a
Hmm.
fuckload of tabs of things that I want to talk about. There's this guy who I think is very funny, not because he's trying to be. Maybe he is. I don't know. But
Okay.
this guy's name is Jonathan Lee Riches. Okay, and he's a convicted
Okay.
fraudster, for which is what somebody would say. If they were like bested by somebody else, they'd be like, "Oh, he's a fucking fraudster." It's basically the Snopes, right? He is currently
Hmm.
incarcerated at the Federal Medical Center in Lexington, Kentucky, so just a stone's throw away from me,
Ooh.
for wire fraud. And the
Hmm.
reason why it's important for you to know who this guy is I want to pull up his actual he's actually like a noted litigator. Like he's gone to court, or he's not necessarily gone to court for all these things, but he has brought people up on. He's sued a lot of people for
Mm.
various reasons, and I do want to I want to share one of his. Yeah, here we go. This is actually in the United States District Court of Western District of Kentucky in Owensboro. It's a civil
Okay.
court proceeding that he's brought. No, this is not the one I want. Maybe. So he's no, this is maybe. It's so absurd. It's hard to tell which ones are good or not. So, anyways, he's brought he's charged in this particular case. This happened back. Gosh, it doesn't even have a date. This guy sucks as a litigator. I take it all back. Plaintiff Jonathan Lee Riches is a convicted federal prisoner currently incarcerated at this place, which is located in Eastern District of Kentucky. Plaintiff filed the instant pro se civil action against Harvard Business Review and 22 other defendants that he collectively refers to as media editors in his handwritten complaint. He alleges in toto as follows. I, Jonathan Lee Riches, moves for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction because I face
Mm.
imminent danger and bodily economic harm from defendants collectively who are, quote, media editors who have continued to write articles or defamation of my character. And they're violating my copyrighted trademark name under the
Wow.
UCC Uniform Commercial Code. Defendants are putting a serious burden on my life, which has caused me panic attacks and a loss of appetite.
Alive.
I now weigh 107 pounds at 5 foot 10 inches. I'm so weak and tired.
Wow.
The manner in which my sentence was executed is unconstitutional. Was his how he spelled it, and
Come on.
in violation of my Eighth Amendment rights for cruel and unusual punishments. Defendants have been called the main switchboard.
Wow.
Have been calling the main switchboard as transcripts of his life, so on and so forth. I do want to pull up some of the people that um, he has sued in the past,
Okay.
because
Let's do it.
it's a very concise list of people that he has brought charges against. Uh, Gosh, talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Jonathan Lee is
Okay, sure.
defendants.
Is anybody else having any issue with audio? I'm getting delays from your end, like, where you're becoming a computer.
Are you
But
really?
as a person, yes, but as a person who A is wearing AirPods that may or may not be fully charged, I don't know.
All right,
I
there we
mean,
go. How's that? Is
you're
that
just kind
better?
of showing your true colors.
Is that better?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it was going in and out. So as of right now, yeah. I can't say, if it'll last, but
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, so Tom, I don't know if you know this. Louisville
Hmm.
police officers are working with UPS
I
on
have not heard that. I
really.
have not heard
So
of that company, of that entity as a whole. I cut you off way too soon. I was playing into the whole thing, and then I forgot that there's like a whole there's more to
there's a
it
whole
than
story behind it.
that. That's my bad.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead, Jerry.
that's
I'm
okay. That's
listening.
okay. Yeah, yeah. So it turns out, as far as I could tell in the story I read, essentially, if UPS thinks that there is a package that's suspicious, they will go into the back room, open up your package, and look for money. And if it's money, that sort of implies that something unscrupulous is going on because you're sending boatloads of cash using UPS through the mail, I guess, or whatever.
Hmm.
And they have a direct line to the police to basically confiscate your money and take your shit, just like in the same way as what do they call that? It's not a what do they call that seizure? Oh man,
Eminent
it's the
domain.
one where no, but like if you're driving across state lines and they see a whole bunch of money in your trunk,
Oh
even
yeah,
if you have
yeah.
like a reason, they'll just take it because they're like, well, it seems suspicious. It's like, no, but I'm moving. This is my entire life savings because I'm moving from one state to another. And they're like, no, I'm taking your money. That one.
Yeah, I know
So
what
I
you're talking
think it
about,
kind of
but
falls under that. It falls under that kind of slash with the whole like, oh, you probably deal drugs with that thing, you know. But anyway, Kentucky is now Louisville is seemingly working with UPS to do that. And when you consider that the U.S. Postal Service is relatively well known to have interfered with elections and mail-in ballots and things, and now we have the police working with UPS to search your shit before they even get to or have to because they need a warrant. Whereas I guess apparently UPS could do whatever the fuck they want
well,
with
UPS
your
is a private
stuff.
entity. It's not even
Um,
a federal entity.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like I didn't realize private entities could just be like, "What's in this box? Tell me what's in the box," or
You
like
can just do
because
whatever
we
you
have
want,
to
Jerry.
look. I guess.
Who cares?
So anyway, I mean, it could be happening elsewhere. I just wanted to let people know that.
That's why it took
Uh,
my package so long that you sent me, because they were rooting
yeah,
through it for
is
money.
that's right. This very small envelope where you could clearly shake it and feel the pins that I sent you. Like it's not. Hey,
Okay,
this
so
might be $2 silver, or
hey,
whatever it is.
those bastards, they could have gotten
It's
my
Don
$2
says there's
hairs.
no sound. Are we okay?
I think he hears it now. Method used by phone scammers. I think he's hearing us now. So here are some of the
Ugh.
more famous people. So these he files these ridiculous civil suits against whoever. And the
Okay.
best part about it doesn't matter what they're about, like what they're really about, but he brings these people up and I don't know why. But he includes
Hmm.
them. It's almost
Okay.
like tagging a bunch of people on Twitter, a bunch of celebrities that who will never respond, but you're doing it just to be a nuisance.
Sure.
And so some of his most famous defendants in his lawsuits, because some of them are absurd, and I wish they were all included here. If I had the whole thing, I'd read the whole damn thing, but I don't have it. I don't know why I didn't save it. He has sued some of the following people: the New England Patriots coach, or the New England
Just
Patriots
as a
coach,
whole.
Bill Belichick, former President of the United States
Okay.
George W. Bush, former Attorney General Janet
Obvious.
Reno, Martha Stewart, NASCAR driver Jeff
That one's easy.
Gordon, former Atlanta Falcons quarterback Michael Vick, Steve Jobs,
Also earned.
Perez Hilton, Somali pirates, just generally, uh, Britney Spears, and then some other. The INS he
Huh.
has sued to prevent him from being deported to Pakistan and tortured upon his release from prison, but there was no evidence that that was
Is
actually
that
going
an
to
option?
happen. No, apparently
Fuck.
not. There was no evidence that he did. He
Hmm.
did file for a request for a temporary restraining order in U.S. District Court against Grand Theft Auto publisher Take Two, claiming that the defendants put him in prison. And let's see who. There's more. There's more. He filed for an injunction against the Guinness Book of World
I don't
Records,
think that's
seeking
the
to
theme
stop
of
them.
Grand Theft Auto, by the way.
I don't know.
You know?
I don't think this guy knows a lot.
No,
about
but I'm
anything.
saying, like, if you've ever played the game,
I have indeed.
Yeah, I don't think going to prison is really involved. Like, I don't.
No, well,
you know what I mean?
do,
Like,
but
it
then
just
you
goes
get right
against
back
what
out.
they do.
You know, it just
what I mean?
it just does the busting and let you back. But then the cops do their best to kill you.
Yeah.
He in 2009 he filed for an injunction against the Guinness Book of World Records, seeking to stop them from listing him as the most litigious individual in history. The spokesperson for Guinness said that there was no such listing and no plan to create one. Her exact quote was, "Most litigious man is not something Guinness World Records has ever monitored as a record category." And let's see. So some of his other defendants aren't even some of the defendants aren't even people. Adolf Hitler's National Socialist Party and the 13 Tribes of Israel. George Bush was named a defendant. Also, another 783 defendants that cover 57 pages of just the defendants. They including Plato, Nostradamus, Che Guevara, Jimmy Hoffa, various Buddhist monks in quotation marks, all survivors of the all the survivors of we can't say this, but all the survivors of Order 66, the Lincoln Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial was a defendant in one of his claims. The Eiffel Tower, the USS Cole, the book Mein Kampf, the Garden of Eden, the Roman Empire, the Appalachian Trail, depending. Yeah, shoot a book. Plymouth Rock, the Holy Grail, Nordic gods, the dwarf planet Pluto, and the entire 3 Mile Island accident. Not 3 Mile Island, but the accident itself. So this is a guy who sues everybody, and not just everybody, but just anything that he can. And I thought that was really, really funny. And if you haven't ever looked him up, his name is Jonathan Lee Riches, and he is in prison.
Yeah, now that you mention him, I absolutely know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, for sure. Do we want to jump right into this, Jerry? Do we have to do the shot and get right into it? Because I know it's a big issue.
Well, I think, yeah.
It's a big topic.
Yeah, because what's the worst case scenario? We accidentally end up early and you go to bed earlier than normal or something? Like, what's the worst? You know what I mean? Like, that's...
Let's let everybody in the chat know that if we do get shut off...
Oh, yeah.
We're not coming back.
It's been good knowing you.
Yeah, we'll probably be have a like a 3 business week ban on YouTube for this one. So
Tom, as you know, with a usual punishment of this sort, there is the 1 week punishment, which of course is 2 weeks. And when I say 2 weeks, I mean 3 business weeks according to YouTube's calendar, which is of course an entire month, not on a leap year month. So that is how... And
not even just a regular month. As I understand it, it's a lunar month, right? It's a lunar business
because
month.
Lunar is the power of the women. Women have the Luna bar, whatever it is.
Right.
And that's female empowerment. So there's no way, for example, they were going to do a Poseidon month or something like that. That doesn't work. So yeah, it would be a lunar, non-leap year month, which is a business 3 weeks of a 2 week suspension of a week's punishment.
Correct.
From YouTube.
That the more I think about it, and hearing it out loud, I think was my problem. Now that I'm hearing it out loud, I get it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's a lot clearer when you say it, right? There's sometimes
it really
where like, you read it and you go, it doesn't.
That's why cops make you repeat stuff, because they're like, now that you're saying it, you understand how stupid that sounds, right? And you're like, yeah, that does sound pretty stupid.
That's right.
Like while I thought all those children were the surviving members of Order 66, now I'm realizing that they were in fact, So that's our new thing. By the way, today, Jerry, we cannot refer to them as their normal name because they are part of this conspiracy, like a great deal, more so than probably they would like. But we cannot refer to them by that. We have to refer to them as the Jedi. Okay. So as much as I hate to tarnish the name of the Jedi, based off of Bodai, our faithful listener, based on his contribution last week, or her, I don't know, they, them. They never gave me their pronouns, so I have to assume.
Could you imagine if that's why we got in trouble?
Because of the pronouns or whatever? Because we'd refer
Like
to them as
they happen to check in and they go, those sons of bitches. First they talk about they deny Order 66, but then they also,
these Empire loyalists, they have got to go. All right, so welcome to the chat, Amanda. For like this is like the fourth week that she's been number one. Yeah, Mike, I think he's starting to win because now he's number 3, and I saw in the chat it was Amanda and Chris Rose by a hair. I mean, like, Chris, you were so close. If you would have been less vaccinated, or if it had been longer since your last booster, you might have made it. But I'm telling you, it was by a hair. Chris Rose, like I said, second. Mike in Manitoba, J Dubs, Efren Flores,
Thomas,
Abernathy.
probably by the hair he can't grow anymore. You know what I mean?
Because of the vax.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the vax. Abernathy, Jin, Steph, and Mark Davis, who were very. Oh, did I say? I didn't even say Don. Don's been here the whole time. Don's way up there. I should have said Don a long time ago. I think I was so busy talking about Don, how he made that stylish hat for you, that I forgot to write his name down. That must be what it was. So, Jerry, who are we cheersing to? Are we cheersing to the
in the hat? Right?
What are we cheersing to, Jerry? It's up to you.
Well, geez, Tom, I'll tell you. I think on this day of days, we don't have to cheers to a person. We should simply cheers to having good memories and to never forgetting.
You know what I would actually... I'm going to rebut that just real quickly, Jerry, and I'd like to say, while I do agree that perhaps we will cheers to that, but I would also like to cheers... I would like to add an addendum to that cheers. And I would like to also cheers to the New England's Patriot coach Bill Belichick, former President of the United States George W. Bush, former Attorney General of the United States Janet Reno, Martha Stewart, NASCAR driver Jeff Gordon, former Atlanta Falcons quarterback Michael Vick, entrepreneur Steve Jobs, celebrity blogger Perez Hilton, Somali Pirates Britney Spears, and then also, who else did we need to... Adolf Hitler's National Socialist Party, the 13 Tribes of Israel, George W. Bush, Plato, Nostradamus, Che Guevara, Jimmy Hoffa, various Buddhist monks, all survivors of the Order 66. And, the Lincoln Memorial, Eiffel Tower, USS Cole, the book Mein Kampf, the Garden of Eden, the Roman Empire, the Appalachian Trail.
Are we talking about Eiffel Tower, the move?
The what?
Eiffel Tower, the location.
The location.
Eiffel Tower,
both.
Or
maybe both.
Location? Oh,
I don't know. I'd have to go and talk to him.
Wow.
The dwarf planet Pluto and the entire 3 Mile Island accident. So... that is what I would like to add as an addendum to things that we cheers to. Okay. Would you agree to that?
That's fair to me. Yeah, I'm totally. Are you serious? I was thinking those things the whole time.
Oh, I knew.
When I said don't forget, I literally was thinking the whole list of what Tom just said, not forgetting that list of people. So, cheers to that.
Mark Davis said, pour one out for Dale Earnhardt. Rip to a real one. He was sued, though, is the problem. Welcome, Joseph Bauer, by the way.
And you know what it is. When you are sued by this man, you are well known to be guilty. So
yeah, I mean, we don't even question it.
You can't really...
When Jonathan Lee Riches calls you out in litigation, I mean,
do
if
you
he
think
subpoenas...
his name Riches because he, failed all the time?
Because that's what he doesn't have. I used to call this homeless guy that would pal around with me. I used to call him Moneybags because that's what he didn't have. No, he was Moneybags. I'm telling you, I called him Moneybags. Funny story about Moneybags.
I think that makes sense. Like Smiley is a person. Like there's a liquor store down my house. It's called Happy Harry's, and the pictures of this Indian guy who's just like this.
Yeah, well, probably because he just saw somebody literally.
Very miserable. Right, that's true.
I used to.
He was trying to tell other people, take the poo to the loo. I don't know if you know that song.
I don't know that song. Is that a
okay? So, no. Well, okay. So I'm gonna just tell you what it is and what its intention was, and then you tell me. How's that? So, it was a PSA created almost like We Are the World, but for India specifically,
because
and by
Indian
famous singers and stuff. Yes, So they were literally like, it was an animated video, okay, and they would cut to the singers in the booth because, of course, they're not doing this for charity. You know what I mean? They need to have their faces out there on this song, "Take the Poo to the Loo," and so they, the government, I believe, financed this, hit song to let everybody know, don't take shits in the street. And
so this was a real thing.
Mean,
like this was an actual. This was like
I'm not kidding you.
Well, I'm saying no. I
I
understand that it was a thing that happened, but it was a real, like an actual effort, kind of like when Stephen Colbert was doing the Vex scene, right? Like that whole dance number, and then they had those rappers who were like, they did a music video where they were like, it's cool to be vaxxed or whatever. Like it was an actual thing that people thought was going to actually get people to stop shitting in the streets.
Stop pooing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I respect about Indians?
What's that? No,
I
don't.
I was gonna say nothing, right? That's a good way to end it. You line it up, but I was hoping you would. Yeah, you didn't. Hey, it doesn't matter.
Tom, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you something. I want to ask if I could just share something real fast.
Please.
Okay. So can you see my screen?
I can. Yeah. Oh, it's
okay.
Okay. Yeah. I see it. What? Somebody was paid dinar for this, right? Or rupees.
Yeah, lots of rupees. And then the poop is calling him on his phone.
First thing in the morning, what do I see? A pile of shit staring at me. I close my eyes, I step away. No matter where I go, there's no getting away.
I have to commend the animation, though. I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so we don't have to make the whole show. I was just, I wanted to make sure that the audience, as we know them, all here live, saw that.
Jerry, I do have to ask you though, have you ever been? So there's a lot to unpack here, right? So the guy wakes up
like
and he's fully dressed, right? He's fully dressed. Right. He has poop as a contact in his phone. I'm not gonna whatever. But I don't know. Maybe if I went over there, it would be a huge culture shock to me. Like people have that sort of that, like they know somebody who I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. What I do want to get into is the fact that if we were to just assume that was a metaphor for like nature calling, right? And he was just like, oh wow, I got to take a shit, right? And his first instinct was, I need to go outside.
To run outside.
Right. He's in a house. It's not so I always envisioned people in India, they're out and about, they've got a rough life because they have to like go forage for clean water because of everybody shitting in the streets. They're out there and they're like fishing for those mud fish and carving stuff out of the dirt to make these nice palaces. For like swimming pools out in the woods. I know you've seen the YouTube videos, right? Or the Facebook reels.
Oh yeah. I know.
That's what they're doing all day. I get it. If you're out there and you've got to take a shit because you're out there building a palace out in the woods in the dirt, I get it.
Yeah.
This guy was
you're
in
not
bed.
allowed to use the bathroom,
This guy was in his house, Jerry. Right? Like
that's right.
Now that leads me to that again, it takes me these different directions. I'm like, okay, is it uncommon for a Indian man or an Indian family to not have? Is it common for them to not have a bathroom in their house? Maybe, I don't know, but
or maybe indoor plumbing at least. Like,
and
do they
that's
not
what I'm saying.
wanna...
I'm like, maybe you've got an outhouse. Surely, I mean, this is a thing that we all acknowledge as human beings is a bodily function, and the world around us recognizes that. Hey, everybody poops. I mean, there's a children's book about it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, but those are lies, right? I mean, we've all come to know that. Women have
the
told
real
me
conspiracy that we're covering tonight is that everybody poops.
Dude, women have told me over and over and over again that they don't.
Were they Indian women?
No, they when I talked to them,
they were
in
women?
the act. they were in the act of shitting in the streets.
So I knew for a fact they were live streaming as they played.
Right, I knew they. Yeah, that.
So-
I'm sorry, that was
So
obvious.
yeah, so these people, like, surely I understand that maybe they don't have indoor plumbing, maybe they don't have the best facilities, but they probably have an outhouse, right? I mean, even we in the 1800s, prior to the 1800s, I would say all the way back to the pioneer days, we had outhouses, right? That was just a thing, right? And it wasn't until indoor
privacy,
plumbing became a, we have toilets now. Now imagine, if you will, India is so far behind us that they not only don't have indoor plumbing, but they haven't quite figured out how to like build a small shack outside of their house where they can poop into a bucket and then later like dump that bucket into the trash can. I don't know enough about India to know what their logistics, what their infrastructure looks like, where they can like collect
this out there?
buckets of poop from the outhouse. I don't know. Jerry, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Well, I just want to throw this out there. I don't want to, really blow it open for you here, but if they don't have indoor plumbing, and if they haven't figured out how to make an outhouse, for example, I'm going to venture to say they don't have the bucket.
There's
You know what I mean?
Jerry, have you ever heard that
Like, they just
expression?
don't-
You're so poor you don't have a pot to piss in.
You don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. That's right.
So Indians are so poor as an entire nation, they
They don't have a bucket to shit in.
They don't have a
That's
pot.
right.
You're so poor you don't have a pot to poop in. And that's like an insult to all Indians, but they're all like, neither do you. Like nobody has a pot to poop in.
That's right, yeah.
And Don Trout says chamber pots. And Mark Davis said never had a solid blog in their lives. A lot of poop talk here in the chat, and I'm loving it. I'm here for the poop talk in the chat. But Abernathy says, have you ever smelled what they eat, though? I wouldn't want to poop in my house either. Now that is more to unpack, because I'm reminded of that time. Remember I said I was driving home and I saw somebody puking outside of their house in the front of their house, and I was
That's
like,
right, yes.
and somebody was like bringing food over. Hey, you want to go inside and eat? He's like, eat inside. I don't even puke inside, right? That's like what is going on in these Indians' houses, right? They're like, their diet is so bad that they have really nice bathrooms because they've never been used, because they refuse to shit in their own homes for fear of the smell that it will leave, which then I'm like, okay, I'm a problem solver. I'm a free thinker. Okay. I'm like, at that point, maybe we need to change our diets, right? Because if we can't use these, everybody else in the known world has these indoor toilets where they're able to shit in peace, right? And
But
comfort.
do they know that though?
I don't know. I assume
I mean?
Indians have the internet, because I have seen Indians very
They've had to help with the internet.
getting onto the internet and harassing women, and I respect them for it. I respect the hustle of the Indian on the internet, right? Because they're just like, it's a numbers game to the Indians, right? They're just like, if they send out enough show boobs vagine, show boobs vagine, just boom, 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 boom. Eventually, somebody is going to show boobs and vagine, right? And these Indians, you have to respect that, because they've got it down to a science. They know for every 40 show bobs and vagine, I'm sorry, for every show bobs and vagine that they send, and for every 40 that they send, they're gonna get one bobs and vagine, right? And so to them, you have to appreciate that. Maybe bob, maybe just a bob, maybe maybe a bush. I don't know what they settle for, but they've got it down to a science. Like I said, they know the conversion data that they need to see bobs and vagine, right? And I appreciate about that. And the thing about that is, you can do that while you're shitting in the streets. Imagine if we were able to convince them to do it inside. They would just never leave the toilet. They'd just be shitting all day. Show Bob's vagine. Show Bob's vagine. And it would be, I think it would change the world. I think I would be curious to see what the economy would look like at that point, once we get them inside shitting in their own toilets. Show Bob's vagine. Probably easier to do it on a toilet than it is to do it squatting on the beach, as Steph said, or squatting in the streets, or... And how do you find have you ever like Do you ever feel I have a hard time pissing in public, right? Like when you have to sneak away to take a piss because there's no toilet, right? You still feel uncomfortable, right? Because you're like anyone could show up at any time. But these dudes are out there shitting,
true.
right? That's a very private act, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I could do it.
You know, the biggest thing for me, my biggest concern in that case is that, I mean, okay, so for example, right? Let's say you're driving in a car and it's almost like a Seinfeld episode or something where you just rub your nose like this, right? But over here is that lady you've been eyeing, you know? Like, I know we're married, but I'm just saying, in a different life.
Yeah. Sure.
And she thinks you're digging real hard. It's over, right? Like, that's just
you're done.
public. You're done, right? Now imagine, instead, do you remember the Wonder Years with Kevin and Winnie? Right?
Yeah, of course. He likes her, but he doesn't like her.
He likes her. It's a huge thing. It's this drama throughout their whole lives, right? Well, imagine instead that they live in India and they both like each other, and they live in the same street. And so they both get off the bus, the rape bus from school.
Because they're on their way to Sirius XM.
Because they're on their way to Sirius XM, their job. And just before they go inside to change out of their slave work clothes into their slave Sirius XM clothes. To their slave home. They're like, he's looking at it. You know, how often did like some 60s band come on and Kevin's looking at Winnie forlongingly and she does that little turn back, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And that scene is the same, except they're shitting.
Yeah.
I don't think
you know what troubles me about that, Jerry, is it doesn't leave much to the imagination, right? Like you've seen it all. Once you've seen your your future Indian wife pooping, right? There's nothing left, right? What can you do? I don't know. I wonder what can you do? Stephicus said, what's more important is Bob's and vagine, not toilets, which is why their lifestyle is built around toilets, whereas their lifestyle is built around Bob's and vagine, whereas ours is built around toilets. And I think that's a priority that we need to re-examine as Americans, right?
By the way, I love the temperature of the room. Oh, and by the way, nobody's going to understand this, but Tom, it's unfortunately more of the techie background. After I shared my screen, I can't see anything, Tom. So you're going to have to reconfigure the old.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It just goes back to our dual screen. But I love looking at the chat after this now because it shows me in real time what the temperature of the room was as we were going down this road. And it was just, okay. Never had a solid log in their lives. Use chamber pot. Okay, so we're getting into we're brainstorming. Then it was just, I'd rather not unpack. And then
we unpacked, right?
Right, and then I'm a victim, LMAO, you know. And I'm just looking at this and I'm going, okay, so at first they were open to it. And then we started talking. They're like, can you not do that, please? This is enough. But then we won them back. Because now they're in joke form. They're talking about goats. They're talking about feathers and loincloths, which, of course, is alluding to the real Indians that we know, as opposed to the fake Indians from
I wonder,
over in
they were
Asia.
Shitting in the pastures, right? They didn't have roads. They didn't have streets.
They actually shit on bison. Did you know that? That's actually... It turns out... everybody... Now, listen. It's a bit controversial. It is what we are talking about here tonight. I'm going to just jump in, Tom. I'm sorry.
Please, let's move into it.
Yeah, so essentially, Indians, as we know them, did shit on bisons. And so the reason why it mattered so much is that the controversy was that we colonialists came in and were horrified by the stench. You know, because you see this field full of buffalo and bison just absolutely covered in shit. And you say, well, this is a godforsaken land. We have to reclaim. Yeah. We have to get rid of these shit-covered animals. This must be some hell on earth. And so we murdered all the bison. And, of course, they would say, well, why didn't you eat it? Why didn't you eat the shit-covered bison?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we do it. We use the bison, every part of the animal, and that's why they approached the original the colonists, right, with shit covered fur. They showed up and they felt like they were like something special, but in reality it was shit covered bison fur. You know what? I did recently read about the early colonists who encountered the Native Americans as they as people who are incredibly boring and touchy, like to call them. When they first approached them, they actually the first thing that the natives said. Do you know what it was, Jerry? Do you remember what? Do you know what the Indians said first to the first colonists who approached natives?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I remember exactly. They said, the colonists, most people don't know this, the colonists addressed them first, and they said, excuse me, it's been a long trip. Do you have a bathroom? And then the Indians said, take your poo to the loo.
No, that's not what they said, Jerry. You're thinking of you're thinking of the blackwashed version, right? You're thinking of the version that they've changed it to. The original, the true version that has been erased from the history books, they approached and they said, you were half right? It was the colonists came in, they said, hey, I really got to take a shit. Where is your outhouse, right? And the first thing that the Indians said to them was, show Bob's and Vagine, right? And with on that note, right? No, let's move into the. I know that joke probably didn't land, but I appreciate the effort.
I get it.
Let's talk about what is the topic today? It's not Bob's and Vagine, but we've actually. I like that that's what we talked about for most of the episode, so we can kind of.
I was going to say it's been like we were worried about having enough time, and then we spent a half hour talking about Bob's and Vagines and poos in the loos.
You can't beat that.
And by the way, I do have to tell you, did you know this? And I'm not kidding. And I don't want to derail us. Maybe it's for another show. I don't know. But did you know that there was actually another PSA I was aware of? And I want to say it may also be from India. I could be wrong. But it's called Don't Sniff Petrol from a Can.
I don't know.
Are you aware of this? Did you not? Did you know this?
Let's do that for another day, Jerry.
No, but dude,
I didn't know.
So here's the thing. So here's the thing. It's called Don't Be Rama Rama.
All these things, you could tell me anything, and I'd probably believe it at this point. After take your poo to the loo, you know what I mean?
Well, here's the So just real quick, I'm not going to play it. I have it queued up. I don't have to play it. But essentially, wherever this is, there are like these Aboriginal type, So either it's Aboriginals in Australia or something like that kind of situation, or it's a more, I guess you could say, rural India kind of thing. And because they're like, I don't know, poor, jobless, or any of all that, for funsies, they just get really high sniffing petrol from a can.
Oh.
And the song is Don't Be Rama Rama, which I'm not really sure, what that means, Like, I don't know what, Rama Rama
I don't know
means.
most of this stuff. The fact that they did their actual national public service announcement in English still baffles me, right? Like, there's enough people in India that are they speak English because they all are call center people, right? So
that's right.
They were able to do it so that we could appreciate it as well, because I wouldn't have known. It could have been about anything. I'd been like, what is this child show? And the thing is, like, most of the stuff that's on kids programming or whatever has poop emojis flying around, right? So, like,
that's true.
I don't know.
Here, I will tell you, it is the leaders of the Nagata NGAAN.
Mark is saying to play it, Jerry. Go ahead and play it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, Mark said to play it, and Mark he's a first time live
he's a paying
viewer,
customer.
So, and he's active on the Discord chat, so we want to make sure that we acknowledge Mark.
All right, and I'm going to use the audio as well. Okay.
Please do.
So here we go.
Looks like that. Oh, I thought he was holding a knife.
Oh. Look at us, we're
They couldn't have picked a more like a better singer. Abernathy says Rama Rama means going blind from rage. Which might be true. I don't
Wait,
doubt
Tom,
that.
here it is.
What? I'll tell you, this is pretty catchy, actually. Oh, why is there a white guy in India?
I don't know.
Lost?
I don't even know.
He got
See,
lost.
like I said, that
He got lost on his way to the nearest toilet.
he was like, I was looking for a bathroom, and it turns out I have all these guys sniffing whatever. So there. I don't want to ruin the whole song for everybody.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
You know, so people could simply look up. If you just type into YouTube, don't sniff petrol from a can. You can get the rest.
You know.
Now, Tom, if you could just bring the screen back, because I lose it every time I do
I got
that.
you. You're back. I forgot.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, what are we talking about today, Jerry? Other than the Rama Rama, we've been shitting on the streets of India this whole time. Let's talk about my favorite holiday, September 11th. Right,
Tom? It's actions like we just took that caused 9/11. I think. I don't know how.
Those
that
are,
works.
you know what? Those people that were in rural India, as I understand it, the northern rural area of India, they're all cannibals. So I mean, like sniffing gas from a can is probably the least of their worries. You know, I don't know.
Or it could explain the cannibalism.
It could explain either one. People are eating so much human that they're like, I need a new high, right? Because like,
dude, imagine if you're
just
eating a bunch of human and sniffing gas. No wonder you're shitting in the streets. You can't. I mean,
you can't control it. Like these people don't even realize. They probably just think that they're shitting in a toilet or whatever. All right, so let's talk about 9/11. Like I said, as you guys I'm sure saw, Jerry is he gives you subtle hints every time. He had his
yeah. See,
what do you know? Let me ask you this, Jerry. What do you know? Because you said something before the show about 9/11, about why
8=20. I know that.
Why we need to all come together on 9/11, right?
Oh yes, yeah. So it's one of those fascinating things, right? Like we've talked about before on the show. For example, that there are what I would like to call morons out there who believe that we landed on the moon. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying ever or whatever. I'm merely stating that if you think that Stanley Kubrick filmed people on the moon and that in 1960s technology Richard Nixon was able to make a clear phone call to the moon, you are stupid. Right? Like that to me seems pretty clear cut. Like forget about the fact that you could like see that they were wearing, you know, I don't remember all the details, but the point being like, oh, they were wearing sneakers and everything was wrapped in tinfoil and all this sort of, you know what I mean? And then even in certain, I think it was like Buzz Aldrin on Conan O'Brien. Conan was like, yeah, I remember being young and like 5 and seeing that. And he goes, you didn't see that. That's not what you saw. He goes, what are you talking about? And he basically alluded to, well, no, we demonstrated, like we filmed something for you to get the idea.
Right.
More
it was
like
all a big fat lie. Yeah.
Yeah, more like he's like we did, like he was trying to cover his tracks a little bit because I think like in his old age he just can't hold in the lie anymore. But he's just like, so he like went like halfway. He was
yeah.
Well, no, we filmed something to demonstrate what we did, but that wasn't you watching us on the moon.
Doesn't it blow your mind that like now we can't even get to the moon? Right, like we were able to.
Well, that's the point, right?
Yeah,
like my dad said something to me the other day. He goes, "Oh, what do you make of sending, people this stuff to?" And I go, "Well, we never went in the first place. That's why we're doing. I mean, we never." And he just looks at me, like, "What?" And I'm like, "Dad, come on, don't make me do this." So
don't break his heart.
Yeah. So with that, right? That seems a bit more obvious, and there's no real discussion. Mostly, there's no real discussion on what they actually did. You know what I mean? Like either you think they landed or you don't. Yeah. That's pretty simple, right? But with the 9/11
you're pretty hurtful about the other people, no matter what. Like you did. You were like, you're either an idiot, right, or you're a smart person.
Stupid, yeah.
You know, it's a very binary thing. It's not.
Look, if you think with 1960, I'm listening to Bluetooth technology on headphones that cost more than the entire. Do you realize in the 1960s, depending on your neighborhood, your entire neighborhood shared one cable line for your phone. And so if you picked up your phone, it's entirely possible that someone in next door was already on the phone and you had to wait until they were done making a call until you could make a call.
Yeah.
That's the technology era we're talking about, and you want me to believe that President Nixon talked to a guy on the moon.
Yeah.
Stop
I don't know, man. Gravity got heavier since then, I think.
That's true. That's true. So there seems to be a unification, like either, okay, one side or the other, whatever, right? Very clear cut. There's no one in the middle going, I don't believe it, but you know what I do believe happened? And then suddenly that's the discussion. There is none of that. With 9/11, it doesn't seem to be so much that everybody believes that it wasn't an incident. Like, I think there's a pretty good mix, you know? Like, I'm sure there's just certain people that are like, man, I can't believe those Iraqi, Afghani shit stir motherfucker. You know, like there's some people, right? I'm sure there are. Yeah, you know, I'm sure there are some.
But they don't have internet,
like,
so we don't hear them.
Yeah, or they're in like or we're not on that part of the internet, you know? Like there's just
they're
one
in the
guy on
streets shitting right now.
Dude, there's just one guy on YouTube going, it's 9/11. Don't let us not forget that there were some foreigners who took a bunch of box cutters and took down 3 towers with 2 planes. What? You know, and then there's no one in the chat going, I'm sorry, did you just say? Instead, it's, you know, someone in the chat going, I know, man. Right? Whatever. So there may be that section of, but for those of us who don't believe the story, instead of just uniting together and saying, you know what, there is like a really substantial portion of the population who doesn't believe any of what you're saying. Right. And instead of combining efforts, becoming like, say, Voltron and the Power Rangers said, you know what? Oh, no, excuse me. Voltron and Transformers said, you know what? I know we're Lego and Duplo here, but let's, you know what I mean?
Against the Decepticon menace, yeah.
That's right. So rather than that, we all bitch and complain at each other or make some kind of, well, you know, jet fuel can't light steel, or I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like all the different, it starts to factor out, like it was the Israelis, it was the Saudis, it was the U.S. government, it must have been bombs. No, it must have been a fire. No, it must have been.
And then that one guy shitting in the streets who's like, it was the Taliban, right?
Right. That's right.
Osama bin Laden.
Yeah. And so rather than, like, I don't understand why we can't all just go, okay, listen, we have 10 different theses, right? Can we just at least all come to the core argument, though, which is that we don't believe a word that the government's telling us, and we were, you know, there's something not right about all this, so we can maybe get some answers or something. Yeah. You know, that'd be pretty good, I think.
That'd be a good start, yeah, for sure. So what I do want to do here, Jerry, though, is I want to talk about how it was the Jedi who...
Do you want to start arguing about... Oh, okay.
Who perpetrated 9/11. Now, as I was like looking through all the conspiracies, it all pointed back to the Jedi. So maybe Anakin was onto something, right? Maybe Anakin, maybe Earth Anakin, our Anakin, was onto something. So let's talk about.
By the way, Tom, ahead, since you watched it and enjoyed it, I'm sorry. Oh, you caught me with my hat off. My goodness. Uh-oh.
No, I didn't.
So Tom, if that's the case, I don't mean to be too nerdy about this, but you did say that you enjoyed the Obi-Wan show, and I'm sorry to kind of bring it back to that, our disagreement on the quality of that show. But if it keeps coming back to the Jedi, then that, you know, the girl, the Darth Vader light or dark, I guess, depending on how you look at it.
She was dark, me, yeah. So,
you know, she would have these flashbacks and see dead kids and think of herself and think of the dead Jedi children, and it's like, well, then if that's the case, then she perpetrated Order 66 herself, technically, and it's a whole lie that they're throwing upon you. So not only did they make Obi-Wan a real bitch,
you are closer
You know what
You
I'm
were
saying?
right on target, Jerry. You're actually right on target when you say that the Jedi were the ones who perpetrated Order 66. You're very close to on target, I think.
Right. You see what I'm saying, right?
Closer than what you think, perhaps the real life example of the Jedi being in charge of the Force. I think you get it. I think you're there. I think you understand that Palpatine himself was a byproduct. Maybe he didn't even. I don't know. There's a lot of theories surrounding
Let's
Anakin
just say
Palpatine.
cooperation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there was something going on there. Anyways, let's talk about the stuff that we know about, because we don't really have a whole lot. We got 45 minutes. So we got to make it count, because I literally have all the stuff that's going to convince you that the Jedi were responsible for 9/11. What is the 9/11?
Order 66, Tom. How am I doing better?
No, Order 66 was something that happened in the 1940s. 9/11, what would that be like? The Death Star being destroyed?
You see, it took out a lot of people, but not the whole Republic, right? So I guess, that would be. That's correct.
Strike back at. They used that in order to further the intent
Strike back at the people
of the rebellion, which was largely led by the Jedi, right? Or at least they were part of it.
Skywalker
right?
and Obi-Wan.
Yeah. So I would say that 9/11 is our destruction of the Death Star. Maybe even if we were to go further, we could say that it was, you have the New Hope Death Star, and then you have the rebuilding of the Death Star. Maybe that's Building 7, right? Later, it fell later. But
I
it
think
was
that's
still
the Pentagon.
That could be it too. That could be it too. I mean, I don't know. We could go. I thought the Forest Moon of Endor, which was also called Endor for some reason, like they ran out of names. The Forest Moon of Endor would have been the Pentagon, right? Because that was
like Rama. Rama would have been understood, but you had to say it twice. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Anyways, so here are the theories. Here's maybe what you, here's maybe what you've heard, right? $2.3 trillion, right? We've heard of that. The $2.3 trillion that went missing. And it had gone missing over the course of, I think, 5 years, as I have it written down here.
Yes, literally Rumsfeld had announced they don't know where it is.
Yeah, on September 10th.
Yeah.
He announced that $2.3 trillion of the Pentagon's budget had just gone missing. There was no accountability of it whatsoever.
Can I just say, Tom, I'm surprised you don't have the whoopsies guy set up for that.
I should have him ready, but I haven't thought. I didn't think of it, truth be told.
Oh, well. That's what I'm here for. I'm the other idea man.
Yeah, you're the idea man. I'm just the guy who spouts off about Bob's and Vagine.
And I'm the guy with the Rama.
So I'll say this. So it like you said, it was September 10th. Donald Rumsfeld announced that $2.3 trillion had gone missing from the Pentagon's budget. Not gone missing, but it had just been mismanaged, right? And nobody, whatever.
Right.
Just so happens, right? And you've heard this. This is stuff that most everybody has heard. Just so happens that the office that was tracking that in the Pentagon, it was actually, it was like the naval. I thought I had it written down, but it was like the Naval Office of Accounting where they were tracking that, and they were actually doing the research. And all those computers happened to be in an office that the plane hit, right? Weird, right?
Yes.
Kind of a crazy situation. Okay, maybe the odds of that happening are like astronomical, quite literally. But
that's right.
You're like, well, surely there were people in the Pentagon who
you would think after that announcement, right? There would be people working on that problem in that room.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there would be hundreds of them.
He just announced that. We better find it.
Hey, yeah, there'd be hundreds of accountants and budget analysts who knew kind of what was going on there. They would probably be in those offices, or that office, that working on those computers trying to find this $2.3 trillion. And then the plane hits,
Very
and
important,
those
you know.
hundreds of people were killed. Right? The good news,
Yeah, oh,
Jerry. The good news
No.
is the guy. I know that's all terrible news. The good news is the guy, the comptroller who was in charge of it. His name was actually Dov Zakhaim. All right.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not gonna say his ethnicity. I'll let you work that one out.
Jedi?
No, you know what? I will tell you because this one's really funny. If you look up Dov Zakhaim, if you look up his Wikipedia, and you go to the early life, as we often do, it will say the very last sentence that it says is he is a Jedi, right? That's it. That's the sentence. He is a Jedi, right?
Just not like I'm a practicing, not, you know, I went to this school.
A Jedi is what it says. In a that's the sentence. Separate sentence, not attached to anything. It's the final sentence in early life. He is a Jedi.
Tom,
okay.
Can I ask you this?
Mm-hmm.
Is the tone of, you know how, like, okay, so for example, if you read a person's diary, right? Or maybe better yet, like an online blog, a live journal, something like that. I know I'm kind of dating myself. Tinder or a Tumblr, something like that.
Sure.
You'd read it, and you have an opinion of the person. You go, oh, what a fucking loony tip, or, you know, or whatever it is, right? You read what it is. Oh, what a self-absorbed piece of, you know, whatever. I wonder. I'm asking you because you read it. When you read the Wikipedia, did you start to get a tone where eventually you're sitting here going, oh, this guy's got to be and then there it was. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, this is definitely, oh, there it is. Like,
yeah, this
in
is
other
somebody
words,
who is
I just
definitely
wonder if
a
someone
Jedi.
added it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How you used to be able to edit Wikipedia. Like, I wonder if someone read that whole thing and it wasn't there, and they were like, wait a minute.
We need
and then
to
they just typed in, he is
this
a Jedi.
guy has mad midi-chlorians on his mother's side flowing through him. Yeah, that's I see that. I can, because you can read it and you're like, okay, you see it starts off with he was born and raised in Brooklyn. You're like, fucking Jedi.
Okay,
yeah, I knew it. I knew it. Right? And then, you know, you get to the end and it's he's a Jedi. All right. So that guy, Dov Zakhaim, he actually was in charge. He was the comptroller. He was the deputy Department of Defense, I think. Anyways, he was like,
and there was money you're missing, you said.
Yeah, $2.3 trillion was missing. This dude's bookkeeping was so bad that the Pentagon lost some $1.55 billion every day for 5 years. And you know, I know that's probably like, wow, that's pretty fucked up. But then you wonder, like, how this guy, maybe he's an idiot, right? Who knows?
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe. You know, you have to assume sometimes somebody's going to be a fucking idiot. But then you think about, like, how did they find this guy? What brought this guy in? Now, I'll tell you what this guy did prior to being selected to be the comptroller at the Pentagon. He and how he benefited from a never-ending war on terror was that up until that year, he was the CEO of SPC International, which was a subsidiary of System Planning Corporation, a company that produces military electronics. Now, bear with me. Military electronics such as flight control systems, radar and systems engineering, and technical assistance in air warfare, cybersecurity, program management, and research of advanced weapon systems, and the list, of course, goes on. This company manufactures flight termination systems for commercial airliners. Do you know why? Do you know what they do, Jerry? So they can remotely control commercial airliners. So, like, you know, that's the guy.
Tom, can I throw this out there?
Please.
And I don't mean to be a bit of a nitpicker here. Okay. I'm a little skeptical about what you're saying. I mean,
please.
Okay, here's the thing, right? Tom, as we know, there is literally no evidence that, for example, the U.S. government could target a journalist in their vehicle and take over the car, causing it to crash and they die. We know that that's not possible.
No way.
We know.
Not currently. That technology is years out, right?
Yeah,
not
it's years,
back in
not
2001, certainly.
For example, Tom, we know that with the new cars that we have, that the remote GPS, remote starters, the ability to turn the car off while you're idling, and many other different attributes to modern vehicles could not have possibly had anything to do with the death of Anne Heche when she drove maniacally through a neighborhood, screaming her head off that she couldn't stop the car, and then crashed into a house. And when they tried to take her away in a body bag, she sat up and screamed, "Oh, no, no." And then they shoved her in there, said she was going to be fine, and she was dead days later. What I'm trying to say is, Tom,
what are you saying, Larry?
These are all fantastical stories of nonsense.
There's no way.
So you're trying to tell me from even further away, further up in the sky, we have the technology, or even had, dare I say, prior to our holiest day, Death Star Day.
What is it, 0 ABB? Or
yes. But so you're trying to tell me that we had the technology to do some tomfoolery? No pun intended.
I would never insinuate that, Jerry. Certainly, I would never say anything harmful about the Jedi. I do have something. I want to show you a picture of this Jedi, and you can make your own assessments here. You know what's really funny is we had Mark said something, and I don't remember what it was, but he did say it. So Megabit said Jedi scum. And then Abernathy said Zachayim sounds Arabic. All the pieces are falling into place. Mark Davis said Dav Zachayim sounds like a Jedi name. Jin said a Jedi misplaced money, you say? Mark Davis said Wikipedia says he's a Jedi. And then Mike in Manitoba, I love him to death. He says, aren't all Jedi Jewish? You're right, Mike.
Yes, I think
the Jedi do hail from.
You know what's the best
tribes.
part? On the one part, there's the one part of me, right, that's going, okay, Mike's vax just made him miss this whole joke, and it blew it for. Like, we're in trouble, right? But then on the other hand, I'm sitting here going, wait, is Samuel L. Jackson Jewish?
He might be. I think probably the true Hebrew people, right?
Right.
The true Hebrews or whatever that always heckle the fake Jedi.
That's right. Hey, I gotta.
Anyways,
I'll be right back. 1 second. Please continue. I have.
All right, I'm gonna do the next one then for you. I got you.
Yes, please. Sorry.
All right. So then here's the second. Now, if we're all taking to the streets to shit on the Jedi, there is another tie to the Jedi that we can make here, and I'm sure some of you have heard it. Ownership of the towers. I want to talk about. There was a gentleman named Larry Silverstein. Now, I don't want to give anything away, but I'll tell you his name was Larry Silverstein, and which we all know is a Jedi name. He actually, just a couple months prior to the attacks on September 11th, he bought the entire World Trade Center's 99-year lease for $3.2 billion, which was in fact $30 million cheaper than the next higher bidder. So the person who outbid him, or the entity that outbid him, revoked their bid, so that he could in turn have the winning bid at $30 million less than what they had initially bid on it for. So there's some curious things that went on there. I don't know what the situation was, but he did in fact purchase the lease on the World Trade Center for $30 million less than the next higher bidder. Perhaps even lower, because they say the number was $3.5 or $3.2 billion, but it just in reality, if you follow the money, it just shows that he bought it for $30 million less than the next higher bidder.
That's right.
But then the first thing that he did was he put a $3.5 billion insurance policy on the towers. Specifically, and I know you might be like, okay, $3.5 billion, yeah, on a $3.2 billion property, that makes sense. Like if you were to buy a house that was $3.2 billion, I mean, you'd want to have the extra, because if your house burnt down, you'd have the stuff inside of it that you'd want to replace. So that makes sense. But his $3.5 billion insurance policy was specifically against terrorist attacks. And this is just mere weeks before the attacks on September 11th.
Well,
so,
Tom, if I can just...
No,
I mean,
please.
I know I stepped away, but I have to... I like a lot of true crime, okay? I do enjoy watching the old true crime YouTube shows. And I have to kind of inform the audience here. I don't want to take away from your theory, but listen. One thing that is common in the true crime world is that every time a spouse is murdered, of course, they initially go after the remaining spouse, right?
Yeah, or the boyfriend.
Yeah. And so one of the things that they look at is whether or not they have a life insurance policy and how recently that life insurance policy was taken out. And I'll tell you, Tom, with all of the spousal murders that I've ever seen, I have never once seen a situation where someone recently took out a life insurance policy that made them the sole inheritors of that policy's benefit. And then subsequently they were murdered. So I understand where you would think that way, Tom. But if we're going to go on a micro level on this macro thing you're proposing, I can't even finish it. Of course I mean, come on.
That's the guy.
It's the guy. Come on. It's always, come on.
Yeah, there's no denying that this guy had some kind of foreknowledge, right?
Yeah.
I have a picture of him, and I want to make sure that I show it, because I'd be
I don't know
doing
if
a
I've ever
disservice. This guy is like comedically Jedi. Comedically Jedi. Look at him. Look at that guy. That's a Jedi.
That's a very Jedi sort of guy.
Jedi. So let's talk more about this guy, though, because I do want to. Because you could sit here and you could speculate, right? I mean, my rule. If there's one thing that's maybe coincidental, I'm like maybe not. I don't know. If there's two things, still I'm like, two is two's a couple, right? I want three. I want at least three or more, and in this case, there's way more than three things that you're like, whoa, hold on. But in each individual thing, there's three or more controversies, right? So this guy, he bought it. The other vendor or the other purchaser stepped away. The seller lost $30 million by selecting this other guy instead. At least $30 million. We don't know how much he really paid for it. Then the dude ended up paying $3.2 billion for it, and then took out a $3.5 billion insurance policy against terrorism, of all things. Weeks before it went down. He bought it weeks before, like months, maybe a couple months before it went down.
Right. It's not like the sale was also 2 weeks before.
Yeah, I mean, if the sale was like 40 years before, or even like 10, maybe 5 years, a couple years,
sure.
A couple of years, I'd be like, okay, well, who plans that far out? Certainly not a Jedi. Like Mike said, isn't that a meta? That's called a Jedi mind trick, isn't it? Yes, that is what that is, Mike. This is all just a great big Jedi mind trick. And so this dude, so that's two or three things maybe, and you're still like, well, maybe it's just a weird coincidence. Who knows? I don't know. Though I've certainly like put all the information in the headline there for you, but there's more, right? And this is like, it goes back to that whole thing that I always, I don't know if I've ever talked about it here, and I know we've mentioned it before. I know you and I talked about it recently, where somebody tells you that they have a loved one who died or could have died in some kind of national tragedy, right? Like people would come to you and they'd say, "Oh my gosh, my cousin goes to Columbine High School, right? And he was supposed to be in the library at the time, right?" And then there's people who were like, "Oh, my dad works in World Trade Center, but he was sick that day or whatever. Or he was like playing hooky."
He got the job in 2007.
Right? Yeah. So it's some bullshit. So like, there's always that person who's always trying to capitalize on that. This guy was one of them. So there's this odd coincidence that happened. Every other day, this guy would have been on the 106th floor in what was called the windows of business or whatever, like restaurants, like restaurants that serve breakfast.
He would go every day with his daughter, right?
Well, he would go. Yeah, he would go there with his daughter or with tenants or new tenants or whatever. He would meet with them, and he would whatever, just to kind of make him feel welcome. That day, and that day alone, was the day that his wife had a doctor's appointment, and he also went to that doctor's appointment with his wife. Right? As you do. I don't know, and I'm gonna say this. All right, I have. Other than like when my wife was pregnant with my kids, I have never been to a doctor's appointment with my wife. Not once. My wife, I've not been to a doctor's appointment with my wife ever, except for when it was to check on the baby, right? And so like when I hear this guy went to a doctor's appointment with his wife, I'm like, I immediately call bullshit, right?
By the way, a rich guy who could have had, like, because you're thinking, oh, well, what about parking? What about taking care of the bill? What about any of those things? This guy just bought the tower. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's no, like, oh, they couldn't get a chauffeur what did they, you understand? Like,
the dude makes his own parking space, right?
He makes his own right. He owns the doctor. His doctor's his cousin, first of all. But no, so it's just, that's not. And then, by the way, I too, other than my wife going with her during her pregnancy appointments and stuff, I have never been to the doctor with her. Now, in the reverse, my wife has gone to the doctor with me. Specifically when I ask her to go, not telling her it's my, old guy exam where they have to shove the finger up the butt. And that is literally just so I could show her, like, look, this is uncomfortable. Don't ever ask me to do some uncomfortable shit again. That's not true. I've never actually done that to my wife. I've never had that done.
I've had it done. I've had it done before.
Is that true?
I did. I've told this story before where they use so much lube to make it happen, right? And I didn't realize how much lube. And I told my uncle this, my uncle who is gay, and he works at the VA. And I told him this story, and he could not stop laughing because he knew exactly what I was getting at. I was like, they used an awful lot of lube, and as soon as they finished, I say they, it was a she. I don't know why I'm saying they, as if to like imply some kind of whatever. It was a she,
like a team effort.
Yeah, and there's a whole basketball team like lubing me up and fingering me. But yeah, she used like an awful lot of lube, and instead of like, she like handed me a towel, kind of like the classic, like the meme where it's like, hey, clean yourself up, right? And they throw a towel.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the hooker thing. Yeah.
Yeah, she like handed me a towel, and she's like, all right, here, use this to clean up or whatever. And I was like, I just kind of did like a quick cursory thing. And that was it, not thinking about it. And then as soon as I sat down, I knew why she handed me so many paper towels, because like my pants were so, and I had to like walk out through the waiting room of all these Vietnam and Korea veterans or whatever. And like I had to like inch along the wall so that they wouldn't see my soaking wet lube ass as I'm walking by. Anyways,
the thing is though, Tom, I'd imagine just to hopefully make, like, if we can change your memory slightly, given their age and being at that doctor's office, there's 100% chance that they all had shit in their pants. They
all probably went through the same thing too.
Right, like so if they were in there before you, they were literally sitting in that room recovering from their ass blast.
Shitting in their pants. Yeah. No,
right.
And to be honest, it's not because I'm old, because I'm not at the over 40 physical. I think they've actually bumped it up to over 50 now, where they check your prostate. But
is that right?
I have to go and I have to do a yearly MS examination.
Yearly blood check.
Yeah, well, I don't do that part of it, but yearly or whatever. But I have to do a yearly MS check because I was
You
one
do
of
it
the
every 6
guys
months.
who got the. I do it as often as I can, Jerry. I no, I'm one of those guys who got the bad batch of the anthrax vaccine, and so I have to go every
That
year.
doesn't, Tom. Excuse me. I'm sorry. We here
Oh,
at
here
You
we
Had
go.
Me at Bigfoot are
Here
a
we
truth
fucking
telling
go,
program.
Jerry.
We here at Bigfoot, You Had Me at Bigfoot, are a truth telling program, and we do do our best to make sure that the truth comes out of our mouth at all times, and if not, we correct each other. Now, Tom said there was a bad batch of some kind of vaccine. I do not believe that has ever happened. There was never, by the way, a point when Bill Clinton came out and apologized to the American public for doctors knowingly and unknowingly doing experiments on people, including using radiation to deadly degrees on cancer patients and things, just for the funsies. That never happened. There is no film reel of that that I could easily pull up for you to show you. And so, Tom, I think we need to correct the record. There is no such thing as a bad batch of vaccines.
I
You
take that back.
are just a jerk.
I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Your-
I did not
your
get. There's no
body
such thing as a
reacted.
bad batch. There is some chatter in the live chat here. We have Mike
no.
said, "Well, she did film it for her coworkers, Tom." So my asshole has been exposed to who knows who, and
That
and
was
I didn't
Tom's
expect.
OnlyFans, and he had no idea.
I don't remember going in there knowing, thinking that I was going to have that done. I'm
What a surprise.
I am a very hairy human being, Jerry, and I feel like I probably would have done more to prepare for this had I known that I was going to do that. So there is a video out there, according to Mike, of my incredibly hairy ass being violated by a woman doctor, as if there is such a thing. But then Mosley Wave says, "I hope you were wearing your Vietnam veteran hat," and I was, of course. Because I feel as entitled as the Vietnam veterans to wear that. I actually went up. I don't often do this. Not when I'm with my kids. I make my kids do it because I want them to understand the importance of it. They have seen me do it before, and now I send them to do it to go thank Vietnam veterans, people who are wearing Vietnam vet hats or whatever. I send them to go thank them and welcome them home. And today I went myself and did it. And
That's a
because
long
there's
drive,
a gentleman, he was sitting
you know?
on the ledge at Costco or whatever, waiting for his ride. I don't know what he was doing, but he was sitting there, and I saw him in his Vietnam veteran hat. I stopped. I said, "Hey, I appreciate it, man. And, welcome home. It's good to see you. Or it's good to have you back, or whatever. Because they didn't get that ticker tape and fanfare that
No,
we
for
got.
sure.
So,
But I do want to say, when you tell them that, I'm assuming it's because they just got in. I mean, is
they
that
just came, they just finally
they just
made it home.
they finally just made it home? They're like, wow, guys, let me tell you something. Do you have any idea what it's like to try to get home on a rickshaw from? There's an ocean. Do you have any
Yeah, we
idea?
had to paddleboard our way here after Vietnam
how
of
many-
all things.
Do you know how many dings and shit? I was about to say something.
Do you know how hard it is to paddleboard our way across the ocean with?
Do you know how many?
With
Do you know how many dings and dongs I went through?
Terrible. Poor Vietnam vets, as if they didn't have enough, Jerry, to go through.
I know.
Yes. Thank your local Vietnam veteran when you see them. And then Abernathy
And if
Jones
they just
said,
got home, buy them. buy them
especially
a
if they
sandwich
just
or
got
something.
home. Goodness gracious, yeah, welcome them home. But Abernathy said, "Hang on. Speaking of, if it was a Jedi mind trick, why would they blame the Iraqis? That doesn't make any sense." And we're going to get to that. Maybe not today, but we are going to get to it. I promise. This might be a two-parter. Have you ever we haven't done a two-parter ever? So this will be a
No,
fun
we
one,
had a
Jerry.
series,
We
but we didn't have a two-parter.
We don't have. I don't think there's enough material to do a series, but we can do a two-parter on the world on the on the Death Star.
Dude,
All
I
right.
could wear this
All
hat
right.
twice. That's great.
So, yeah, I know, right? It's getting some wear in, right? You're gonna have to get a fresh one. You're gonna have to let Dawn know that you need a fresh one, like a baseball
Yeah, I need.
cap.
As
with
you could
tinfoil
tell, the
on it
tape.
somewhere.
Oh yeah, I have tons of baseball hats. We could
Can
get
you
tape on
imagine?
the. That'd be awesome.
So like I said, as if all that wasn't enough, this guy also fought for a decade to try to get more money from the insurance companies. Like, he sued more than 40 insurance companies because he felt that since it was 2 attacks, that he was entitled to double what he took the policy out for. So he fought. He ultimately ended up coming out like $1 billion above what he was, what he would have normally. And then here's the best part. Not only did he do that, where he's like, oh, I need this extra billions of dollars or whatever. He also played the victim when they were like, well, why are you trying to ask for so much money? He's like, oh, woe is me. They charge me $100 million every year for rent for this pile of rubble, right? Not only that, but then he also petitioned the government, and then the government actually gave him these grants, these tax-free grants and treasury tokens, because of the whole situation. So the dude made out like a bandit. There's no denying that Larry Silverstein, wherever he comes from, I don't know how many midichlorians he has flowing through him, but and what his early life says
from the Dagobah system, right?
on Wikipedia. I don't know what his early life says, but I will say that he whatever, all that shit that I just said about him. All right, short selling. Oh, I showed a picture of that. Let's talk about there was something that went on. I don't know if you know do you know what short selling is, Jerry, as far as stocks?
Oh goodness. I mean, okay, it's one of those things where I feel like I do, but if you ask me to explain it on the spot, I can't. But I think it's that you knowingly drop the value of the stocks and then buy it at the bottom, knowing that it's just going to go back up again. Is that what it is?
Essentially, yeah. So what it is basically you borrow these. Now there's a word for it. I don't want to fuck it up because I don't want to be. This is a show about truth, right?
Please,
so
we are accuracy number one here.
They borrow securities. And then they sell those securities at that rate because they know that something is going to happen that's going to drop the value of the stock. So they buy the securities, sell them, even though they don't own them, they're just borrowing them. And then they buy them back later once everybody else has sold off all their stock, and they can get them for way cheaper, and then they pocket the difference, right? So it's like if I were to borrow, it's like if I were to borrow from you, I don't know, your car. And then I sell your car,
smash it. Oh.
And then, well, no, I sell it, and then at a price right now. But then, a couple weeks from now, I know that I can get my hands on that same car, or maybe even a better car, with lower mileage. I buy that one for cheaper, and then I give that back to you. I pocket the difference, right? It's the same thing that they do with shorting a stock. Now, what were you going to say to everybody?
Oh man, I think I might have lost it.
Okay.
Shit.
Well,
if I think of it, I'll stop it. Yeah.
So, anyways, during the week leading up to the attack, there was a significant amount of trade anomalies, right? Like there was some stuff going on in the stock market. Yeah, go ahead. Do it now. I'm not one to sit here and say get into the stock market. I'm not sitting here saying you should even get into the system. In fact, the system is crumbling. Don't do that. However, people have this tendency to sell when it's after it's already dropped. Like, you already lost your money. Why would you sell it now? The only way it goes up. You understand what I'm saying? Either it's going to crash to nothing, which is basically where you're at, or if you hold it, it cannot go anywhere but up. For example, Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, he was doing some crypto trading, and because I don't know enough, I'm not even going to bother with a name, but a crypto that people were kind of high on because there's potential government ties, this, that, and the other. But it just went, like overnight almost, right? And he's watching it, and he's watching it, and he's watching it, and he's going, how low can this go? How low can this go? So he bought them at, like, say, 10 cents. He goes, I'm going to buy 1 million fucking shares. He didn't buy 1 million shares, but quite a bit is the point. And then within 48 hours, especially with the crypto market, we know this is true, it was back up to valued of, let's say, $1. But he bought so many at 10 cents or a penny or whatever the hell it was, he became a millionaire overnight. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say to people is, if your stock already lost, or if you see one that dropped, why wouldn't you buy it low? Because there's only one way to go, up. So that's what they're doing. Yes, they're causing it. Yes, it's, I understand the problem, but follow suit, you fucking idiots. Like, all right, sorry.
The
Don't
stock
sell
market
your
is a weird
shares.
thing.
Don't sell your shares.
I made a fair amount because I got into that whole GameStop thing just because I wanted to fuck over a bunch of Jedi hedge fund managers. And so I put like $1,000 into it, and then it of course collapsed or whatever, which I was like, I'm okay with that. Not that I have like $1,000 to just be throwing everywhere, but like I was okay with
Tom.
I was okay with hurting the Jedi Council, and then I ended up actually what I had there plus what I had in Bitcoin some time ago or whatever. I ended up coming away with, I don't know, 5,000 over or something. Like I did really well in the end. And I was able to use that money to buy the new fucking PlayStation and the Xbox and the Switch and shit for the kids, and then one for myself. And I actually, I don't know, but I did okay. I did well enough to where I was able to pay all my stuff back because I had borrowed money from our bank account to
what
do this.
Tom doesn't want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry,
no,
Tom. I know we talked about this off air, but what Tom doesn't want to tell you is that Tom got involved with the GameStop thing, and he got a lot of money. Got a lot of money, and what he did was he invested by buying the third tower and putting a lot of insurance on it.
I over specifically for terrorism.
He put 5 PlayStations on the same floor that got hit by.
Yeah, and then I claimed, it was renter's insurance. It was a renter's insurance Jedi scam. I really Jedi'd those insurance companies, right? But this is what happened. This is the last one we're going to be able to do before we cut loose. We are going to have to make this a two-parter. They did.
That's great. You know why? Because there were 2 towers.
Well, yeah, it's a two-parter.
It's one episode for each tower.
Well, if we can, unless we count, of course, Building 7, which we need to talk. That'll be next week. You had me at Building 7. Will be next week.
You cannot take down 3 buildings with 2 planes. So I don't even know what you're talking about.
Mike's accusing me of being a Jedi. He said, "So you're saying Tom is a Jedi?" And then Mostly Wave says, "Xbox and PlayStation, you put the money back into the Jedi's hands." I did. I played right into their dirty Jedi hands. No, but this whole short stock situation, they did the same thing with American and United. The weeks leading up to, the days leading up to the attack on September 11th, the Jedi on Wall Street on Coruscant, they they all shorted the stocks, and you know what? And people might say, well, surely that's speculation, right? What did the 9/11 Commission say? The National Commission on Terrorist Attacks upon the United States, aka the 9/11 Commission, they did investigate these irregularities, and they indicated that there was unusual and seemingly suspicious trading activity during this period. However, their final conclusion was that, quote, "It was all coincidentally innocuous and not the result of any insider trading or foreknowledge of the 9/11 attacks." And you may ask yourself, well, hold up. Who was the 9/11 committee made up of? The fucking Jedi Council. It's investigated. No, that's
it was Yoda and all of his family.
That's like when it was Anakin, it was Luke, and it was fucking Rey or whatever. I don't know. As I understand it, she's actually a Palpatine, but she
named herself. Dude, I don't want to get into it.
She became a Skywalker.
But I'm just saying, is it a Jedi act to say that you're one thing and then rename yourself as if you were something else?
To me, there is
popularity's sake.
There is some benefit to being a Jedi, right? Like we understand that there's some benefit to being a Jedi in a modern context, right? Like we know.
Yeah, but even in a certain industry where they dominate, it still tends to be that, let's say, for example, John Stewart is not actually his name.
Yeah, John.
you know,
Scoopenmeyer or whatever. What was his
so
name?
I guess what I'm saying is Rey Palpatine answering the lady at the end of the movie that her name is Rey Skywalker checks out.
You know,
I'm just saying.
I feel like Rey all of a sudden changing her name to Silverstein at the end of the movie is her way of making it into either politics or Hollywood, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
right.
she's using that as
a benefit, yeah.
a way to, because she's not necessarily earned her way. She's not hereditarily a Jedi. Does she even have any midi-chlorians? Now that I'm thinking, I guess she would, because right, because she
had to, right? Because she is the best ever.
Yeah.
So,
well, of course. So I mean, yeah, but I mean, changing your name to Silverstein, or I don't know, what was the one, L'chaim, right? No, what was the one that we said earlier? Dov, Zachayim. Yeah, like that's essentially the same thing. Like if you show up in a Hollywood studio and you say, "Hey, my name is Tom Skywalker," they're gonna say, "What can I do for you, Mr. Skywalker?" And here's just like, here's my bank account number. What do you need me to do, right? And what are you trying to make here? We fully support it, without me even announcing it. So her saying, "Hey, I'm Rey Skywalker," the whole Star Wars thing is really just an analogy. You know what I'm saying? Would you agree with that?
This is where I was saying. Well, this is what I'm getting at. You know, she very much took advantage of a name that people were far more used to and accepting of, in order to further her popularity and career. I mean, that's just, if you look at it from even a Star Wars like if you make it a little more meta as opposed to in-universe, she literally, everybody was like, "Hey, Rey sucks. She's a fucking Mary Sue. This sucks." And then at the end of the movie, they're like, "Yeah, but her name's Skywalker."
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And they're like, "Wait, what? She was a Palpatine." Yeah, but you could just say shit. You live in a desert. No one's going to check. There's no birth certificate. It's like a Cuban guy coming. Yeah, it's like a Cuban guy who comes over to play in the major leagues. It's like, how old is he? 25. Really?
You know? Yeah, he's a minor leaguer for sure. Let's send him.
Yeah, you know what I
or
mean?
let's send him to T-ball and see what happens.
Yeah, he's like 75. You know, it's like everybody knows Albert Pujols is actually like 50. You know what I mean? And it's just like he's been lying for years. It's the same thing.
Like on Benchwarmers when he says, "Let me see your birth certificate," and it says, "I am 25" in crayon or whatever.
Exactly.
Or, I'm sorry, right. I am 12 is what it says in crayon.
I am 20. Yeah.
I am 25. I fucked up the. Now that's not to say the Benchwarmers was a quality program. I do enjoy that movie. All right, Jerry. So this will be You Had Me at Tower 1.
You had me
and
at Tower
next
1.
week we're gonna have to do Tower 2, which is just like more stuff about how the Jedi.
Right.
Yeah, Mark Davis. In fact, well, mostly Wave says Sean Quan Chin, and then Mark Davis says it's very common for Jedi to change their last names for some reason. I've noticed. So yeah. And we know that to be true because that way they can maintain their dual citizenship and be the minority, or even what is he? He's like the Senate Majority Leader now, Schumer, which is,
yes,
I understand, right, a Jedi name. Jerry, do you have anything that you want to shill or anything, or before we cut loose?
Yes. So just like last week, I'm going to do a quick. I'm not making you participate, but I'm going to do the whoopsie, just one, and I'm going to just do it so we can end on a very funny note, in case anybody didn't find what we were doing today very humorous. Okay.
Probably a Jedi.
Florida man accused of killing person at his own birthday celebration. They asked him, "What happened?" And he said, "Well, let me tell you. I'm not going to get into it, but if I'm going to give you a little point, a little lesson, never use a gun to put out the candles. Lesson learned."
Terrible.
Lesson.
Well, that's why I love the Florida man, because he makes these unconventional decisions that like you would never think to make.
That's
and
right.
You know, part of me is like, well, that would be a pretty cool way to put out a candle, but Florida man does it. You know.
Well, yeah.
And for that reason,
and then you find they learn the lessons for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Florida man does do. He does the things that we're thinking, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's like, oh, you know, should I do that? And then someone
Mark says have to close out the show before Jerry's hat disintegrates because the part in the front, right in the brim, keeps coming out. So
the tape, it just keeps falling. It's the tape is, you know what it is? It's the sweat. It's a 2-hour show.
So, I know it's
I don't
tough
have
to
the AC
be.
on.
It's tough to do stuff for 2 hours, right?
Dude,
that's why I like.
This is showbiz.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
This is how it is.
And by the way, given, can I just 1 second?
Please.
I know we
please.
have to go.
No, you're good.
So okay, I'm gonna do it. I can't help it because I saw the other one involve the feds. So I figure since we're talking about this, let's do a little dip as the final. FBI fears woman in NYC trafficking ring had hundreds of victims. Hundreds. Okay? And so I called them up and I said, what motivated you to follow up on this trafficking ring, this woman? And they said, well, we heard that she may have hundreds. And that competes with our numbers, and it kind of sounded like a lot, so we might have to do something.
Yeah, well, the FBI, didn't they get like 1 or 2, or none, one?
See, Tom. The thing is,
none or one.
The FBI traffics and are traffickers of human beings.
Either way.
And so when they hear there's hundreds, they go, well, we got to take out the competition. This seems like
she did all the legwork for you.
That's right. Wow, she made all the connections. I got to tell you, Tom, I'm new at the firm, and I'm not much of I'm a little shy at parties. This lady did half my work. I can't believe it.
I was imagining it the other way. Like, she actually, she did like, 100. Wow, we can go there and we can make it. Like, she did a lot of the work for us. Whereas we're only getting, 0 or 1, and you have to round down. There's an old, I think it was a Mad TV sketch or whatever, where it was Paul Reiser went on there, and they were talking about the rule of 3, where a woman will say a number of men she's been with, and it was you take that number and you divide it by 3. So if she says 21, it's really 7. I'm sorry. She says 7.
It's in reverse,
you multiply it by
men
3, right? And it becomes it's actually 21. But for men, if they say 21, it's actually 7. And when he says 3, she says, I'm thinking you mean 1 or maybe none. And he's like, well, no, it's not been none, right? And he has to defend himself. So that was immediately where I went with the FBI thing. All right, Jerry, how do we normally end the show?
Well, we end by you saying something, and then I plug nothing because I don't wanna. And then we say, listen, thanks for being here. Please like and subscribe. We are at 700 on the nose for subs. So we need you guys to get out your alts so we stay above 700. And, thank you for being here.
Is there some kind of, image that they see as it cuts out?
That's a good question. I always end the show. I don't look. It might be. There could be.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.